It was monsoon season in Phoenix, and that night's storm was particularly intense. The streets were flooded with water raging down the neighborhood, taking down small trees, city trash cans, and kids' toys left in their yards. The power outage left us in darkness, without lights or cell service. For those unfamiliar, a monsoon is basically a mini hurricane. These severe storms occurred about once a year, so my boyfriend Marcus and I were well prepared. We lit up candles in the living room, set up pillows and blankets, and grabbed some snacks from the pantry. Snuggling up together, we enjoyed each other's company, engaging in conversation while patiently waiting for the storm to pass. Suddenly, a loud, desperate knock at the front door echoed through our quiet house. We gave each other confused looks before tiptoeing to the door. Marcus looked out the peephole. "Who is it?" I whispered. "Our neighbor," he said. Without warning, Marcus yanked the door open to a familiar face. The lady from next door stood there, her eyes wide with fear. Raindrops clung to her tangled hair, and her clothes were soaked through. The wind blew so hard that the umbrella she held was snatched out of her hands and flew into a bush in our front yard. "Please help me. My husband is trying to kill me, and I don't know what to do," she gasped, her words tumbling out in a frantic rush. Fear and concern flickered through Marcus's face as he looked at me. Without a second thought, he ushered her inside. When she wasn't looking, I shot him a dirty look. Marcus was always a little too eager to help a stranger. I hate to sound like a terrible person, but I watched way too many true crime documentaries to let a complete stranger into my house. I didn't care that she was our neighbor. We didn't know her well enough. As she caught her breath, she began. "I'm actually your neighbor," she started to explain. We recognized her from the times we'd return home and spot her and her husband in their front yard. She would be working in the garden, and her husband would be watching her, like literally standing over her, just watching. We'd wave hello, they'd wave back, and that was it. "I ran here because I saw your lights," she gestured to the candles. "He's dangerous, and I don't know what he'll do if he finds me." We shared uneasy glances, but decided to trust our instincts. Offering her a seat and a glass of water, the woman introduced herself as Lisa, her trembling hands clutching the glass. In the flickering candlelight, her eyes darted nervously around the room. "Thank you so much for helping me. You have no idea what I've been through," she whispered. We listened intently as she spun a tale of abuse and manipulation, painting her husband as a monster. I felt especially terrible because one night when Marcus wasn't home, I thought I saw this same woman running out of the house at full speed, with her husband hot on her heels. About halfway down the street, he ended up catching her. He grabbed her by the hair and told her not to run away from him. Then he kissed her hard on the mouth. I never thought to call the police because that night, Lisa didn't look scared like she does tonight. She didn't scream or try to escape his grasp, so I figured it was some kind of weird game they were playing. I forgot to mention it to Marcus when he got back from his work trip. After what she told us, we were ready to call the cops. Just as Marcus dialed 911, Lisa's eyes widened and she clutched my arm. "No, please, I can't involve the police. He will find me and it'll be worse." We hesitated, torn between compassion and suspicion on my end. In an attempt to ease the tension, Marcus suggested, "Stay here tonight. We'll figure things out in the morning. You're safe here." I gave Marcus a look once again. I didn't want this stranger spending the night with us, because something seemed off about this lady. However, I also couldn't send her back out in the storm, or worse, be the reason her husband finds her, and who knows what he might do. Reluctantly, I showed her the downstairs of the house as best I could with limited lighting, while Marcus got the guest bedroom set up, which was also downstairs. We all settled down, the air heavy with the mixture of fear and uncertainty. As the night wore on, I found myself unable to shake the feeling that something was amiss. Lisa seemed too composed, too calculated in her every move. In the quiet darkness, she whispered, "I can't thank you enough for helping me. You're my only hope." And with that, we wished her a good night and went upstairs to our bedroom. I tossed and turned that night. It wasn't easy falling asleep with our neighbor right downstairs. But I must have fallen asleep. My eyes fluttered open, disturbed by an unsettling feeling that lingered in my room. The soft patter of rain against the window was soothing and almost made me fall back to sleep. But that's when I heard it. Footsteps, slow and deliberate. I pretended to be asleep, squinting to see through my lashes. At the foot of the bed stood Lisa, standing there as still as a statue. What was she doing? Panic gripped me as her phone's flash illuminated the darkness. She was taking pictures of us while we slept. A chill ran down my spine while I felt the weight of the blanket being lifted. Lisa's hand trailed up my leg and my eyes shot open in shock. I couldn't pretend any longer. Startled, I jolted awake, grabbing Marcus's arm. "Lisa, what the hell are you doing?" I hissed, my voice a mixture of fear and anger. The room became a battleground of confusion as we hurriedly pushed her away, stumbling out of bed. Lisa's eyes held a manic gleam as she stammered, "I just wanted to remember this moment, that's all." Outraged, Marcus grabbed her by the arm, leading her out of the bedroom and into the dimly lit living room. The flickering candlelit cast eerie shadows on the wall, intensifying the surreal atmosphere. "All right, Lisa, it's time for you to go. Why are you taking pictures of us in our sleep? And why did you touch me?" I screamed in her face, my voice a growl of frustration. Lisa's eyes darted nervously as she stumbled over her words. I thought you should see how vulnerable you are. You don't know what's coming." As we pressed her for answers, the silence was shattered by a loud, intense banging on the front door. A voice outside, strained and urgent, shouted, "Open the door! If my wife is inside, you're in danger!" Fear seized us as we exchanged horrified glances. "He found me," she whispered. Lisa pleaded with us not to open the door, her desperation reaching a feverish pitch. The air thickened with tension as the pounding continued. How did he know she was here? And then I thought back to her umbrella that got caught in our bushes. He must have spotted it. "Please, you don't understand. Lisa is dangerous. Let me help you." A sinking feeling settled in the pit of my stomach when I realized the screwdriver we used to insert batteries into our flashlight earlier was missing from the coffee table where we had left it. "Marcus, the screwdriver. She has it," I warned him. But before we could react, Lisa launched herself at us, a wild, desperate look in her eyes. The screwdriver gleamed in her fist as she came at us, her arm flailing in a stabbing motion. Chaos erupted. The struggle unfolded like a nightmare. Lisa had managed to stab Marcus in his shoulder, but before she could do any more damage, I hit her across the back of her head with the bat I kept under the couch. She grabbed the back of her head and spun around to face me. Surely I thought that would have knocked her out, but it didn't. Marcus was on the floor holding his shoulder. A pool of blood started to form underneath him. She lunged at me. I hit her again across the face this time, and that knocked her out cold. With the storm still raging outside, Marcus and I were left shaken and injured. Lisa lay unconscious on the floor. As I tended to Marcus's shoulder wound, the urgency of the situation intensified. Her husband was still yelling and banging on our door. "I know she's in there. Let me in." Fear and adrenaline pulsed through us as we tried to figure out our next move. We couldn't trust Lisa, and now her husband was at the door, claiming we were in danger. It felt like a twisted nightmare, and we were trapped in the middle of it. With Marcus leaning on me for support, we cautiously approached the door. I peered through the peephole and saw a man, visibly distressed, his eyes pleading for entry. But was he genuine, or was this another layer to the nightmare? We decided to speak to him through the closed door, keeping our guard up. The man outside explained that Lisa had a history of mental health issues. He claimed he had been searching for her, concerned for her safety and the safety of others. The man explained that Lisa's mental health struggles had strained their relationship, leading to moments of paranoia and aggression. He genuinely seemed concerned about her well-being, despite the complexities of their situation. We decided to call for medical help for both Lisa and Marcus. As we waited for assistance, the storm outside mirrored the storm within our home. The paramedics arrived, tending to Marcus's injuries and assisting Lisa's condition. The husband cooperated fully, providing details that aligned with his earlier explanation. In the end, the chaotic night slowly unraveled, leaving us with a battered home and lingering questions. We discovered that Lisa had indeed manipulated the situation, taking advantage of our kindness for her own disturbing intentions. As the authorities took control of the situation, we reflected on the night's events. The storm outside had subsided, leaving a calm aftermath. Our once cozy living room, now marked by chaos, would forever bear the scars of that monsoon night. In the aftermath, we strengthened our home security, always wary of the unexpected. The scars, physical and emotional, would take time to heal. The story of that fateful night would become a chilling tale, a reminder of the thin line between compassion and danger. Hi, it's me, Nightmare Claire. Just stopping by to say that if you enjoyed that first video, please consider subscribing. We're almost at 300 subscribers, and I'd love for you to be a part of this community. Thank you, and let's get back to the stories. When I was 18, I couldn't wait to move out of my parents' house. Not because it was a bad environment or anything. I was just very independent and eager to experience living on my own, having my personal space and freedom. But if I would have known about the man I would be living next door to, I would have definitely stayed with my parents a little longer. Everything started out great. My apartment wasn't the most luxurious, and it wasn't in the best neighborhood, but it was mine, and that was all that mattered. There were multiple units to one building. My apartment was situated down a long hallway towards the very end of the building, so it was very quiet and not a lot of foot traffic near me. I also didn't have any neighbors next door to me or across the hall from me. Those apartments were empty, and they stayed that way for about 3 months. I started to wonder if I would ever have any neighbors. One day, I was sitting on my couch, watching TV, when I heard a bunch of commotion from people constantly walking through the hallway and occasionally bumping objects into the wall. I decided to be nosy and look out the peephole. Across the hallway, I caught a glimpse at my new neighbor. Butterflies fluttered in my stomach as I took in his gorgeous presence. He was so fine. Beautiful brown skin, slightly glistening from exertion. With no shirt on, his sculpted body resembled a work of art, like he was carved from stone. Neatly twisted dreads hung down to his shoulders. He had a mesmerizing smile that revealed straight, white teeth, and his stunning green eyes completed his look. I decided to go outside and pretend I needed something from my car. So I went in the bathroom to check my hair, put on a little lip gloss, then slid on my shoes and headed out. I walked past him as he carried 2 heavy boxes into his apartment. He was even more gorgeous up close. I flashed him a smile and said hello. He did the same. I was so mesmerized by him that I hardly noticed the other man helping him move. He was taller and older, possibly the boy's father, but they looked nothing alike. The older man had an off-putting demeanor. He literally stopped what he was doing to stare at me until I was out of view. It was one of those stares when you catch the person looking at you, but they don't turn away. They just keep looking. He was a large, burly man with dark eyes that looked crazed. His head was bald, and he was wearing a dirty white t-shirt and a pair of dusty jeans. There was just something scary about him, something that made me hope I was never caught in the hallway with him alone. Anyway, months had passed, and my interest in my haughty neighbor had died down. Anytime I passed him in the hall, he seemed like he was in a hurry, and there was never a good time to start a conversation. Until one evening, I came home from work, and there was a note that was poking out of my door. I snatched the note from where it hung, thinking it was something from the office. When I got inside, I opened the note and found it was from my haughty neighbor. The note read, "Hi, my name is Mike. I live right across the hall in 203. I see you all the time, but I've been really nervous to introduce myself. Could you text me sometime? I think you're really pretty, and I would love to get to know you." He ended it with his phone number. Wow, so his name was Mike. He didn't seem like a Mike. He also didn't seem like the nervous type. I assumed he would be very skilled when talking to women, with him being so cute and all. I debated for a long time if I should text him or not. Even though he said he was shy, it seemed kind of weird to me that a grown man would leave a note on my door instead of sucking it up and introducing himself in person. But who am I to judge? Eventually, I decided to go ahead and message him with a fake number I got from an app, because no matter how cute he was, something seemed off, and I didn't want him to have my real phone number. We began texting that same night, and the conversation was very dull. He would hit me with the one-word answers to every question, and he simply didn't know how to hold a conversation. I decided to delete the number app and just not speak to him anymore. If he ever wanted to know what happened, he would have to ask me in person. One night, I returned home from a grueling 12-hour shift. Exhausted and unable to think straight, resembling something from The Walking Dead, I took a shower and collapsed on my couch. I don't know how long I was asleep, but I suddenly jolted awake by a loud knock on my door. It was late, and I wasn't in the mood to be bothered. I chose to ignore it until I heard the door handle turn. My door slowly began to open. In my living room stood my neighbor, and not the cute one, but the one I assumed was his father, the one who creeped me out every time I looked at him. I leaped off the couch half-dressed with my heart pounding in my chest. "You need to leave," I said, voice shaking. "Well, I'm just trying to help you out. You left your keys in the door," he said. Was I that exhausted that I had done something so stupid? I didn't want to say anything to piss him off further, so I said, "Well, thank you, I appreciate that, but I had a long day at work and I'm really tired." "You gotta be more careful. You're lucky I was the one who found them and not some psycho," he said. I gave a nervous laugh. "You're right," I said. The strange thing was, this whole time I had my hand out, waiting for him to hand the keys over, but it seemed like he was enjoying withholding them from me. "I can stay for a little while and help you relax. Besides, you never messaged me back. We could catch up," he said. My heart sank into the pit of my stomach when I realized the person I had been texting wasn't my haughty neighbor. It was this creep who stood right in front of me. "I actually think I'm getting sick. Please, I need you to leave before I embarrass myself." He still hadn't given me my keys. He just stood there for a moment, scanning over my body. He gave me a look that said if he was going to leave, it was going to be of his own accord, not mine. He was in control here, not me. After a few moments of tension, he finally handed me my keys and left. I slammed the door shut behind him and locked it. I had to triple check that it was in fact locked. It took a long time for my heart rate to slow down. I couldn't believe what just happened. It felt like I had narrowly escaped a horrible situation. After that night, I was super careful about making sure my doors were always locked tight and my keys were in my hand on the inside of my house. Our long-awaited move-in day had finally arrived. My husband and I had been eagerly anticipating this moment for weeks. We were about to move into our first luxury apartment. "Alrighty, here are your keys and an inspection form. You may now enter your apartment, give it a thorough walkthrough, and jot down any maintenance, painting, or damage issues you come across. Other than that, you guys are all set, and welcome to the Fountain Place community." "Thank you," we both said excitedly. My husband and I took the map we were given and set out to locate our new apartment. We waved and said hello to passing neighbors, and everyone seemed so friendly. But as we were approaching our apartment number 120, we noticed a man leaning up against the wall right next to our front door, smoking a cigarette. My husband walked right up to the man and introduced us. The man seemed to ignore my husband and instead peered around him to look at me. But he didn't just look at me. It was more like he was devouring me, as if he was undressing me with his eyes. The look was so inappropriate and creepy. I pulled my cardigan over my shoulders and across my chest a little tighter. My husband cleared his throat. "So, do you live around here?" My husband's voice took the man's attention away from me, thank goodness. "Yeah, I'm actually right next door. My name is Herman. If you need anything, just knock. Welcome to the neighborhood." And with that, he turned his back on us and walked into his apartment. Great, I thought, as I rolled my eyes. As soon as we got inside, my husband turned to me. "Well, that was weird. Right? Did you see how he looked at me?" "Yeah, I did. That guy better watch it." "I just hope he doesn't give us any more issues," I said. "You and me both." We began inspecting our new apartment, jotting down a few minor issues here and there that we'd report later. We made it to the final area of inspection, which was the master closet. It was on the smaller side, but would fit the majority of our things. As we started to leave the closet, I looked up and noticed a square-shaped opening in the ceiling of the closet. It looked like it could be an attic, but there was no door or covering keeping it closed. When we looked inside, there was just darkness. My husband said there's nothing up there except padding and AC ducts. But having that opening exposed like that left me with an unsettling feeling. I would be informing maintenance that this opening needs to be covered immediately. Our first few weeks at the new place were less than pleasant. That hole in the closet was still uncovered, which creeped me out every time I went in there. Herman continued to give us a hard time whenever he possibly could. He would play loud music and have random parties throughout the week, knowing we had to work the next day. He continued to smoke cigarettes right by our front door so that we were smacked in the face with the smell of smoke anytime we walked out. One night, I caught him on our Ring camera looking through our peephole. When I got the notification on my phone, I yelled at him through the front door to stop or I would call the police. He responded with, "Now why would you do that? Don't you like it when I look at you?" he said. "You're disgusting, Herman. Get off of my doorstep," I responded. He seemed to be particularly bad when my husband wasn't home, which was often because my husband was a truck driver. I also noticed things would go missing or be moved where they didn't belong. And worst of all, I had a constant feeling that someone was watching me. One day, I was in the shower washing my hair when all of a sudden I heard the bathroom door open. I felt the change in temperature as the steam left the bathroom and the cool air came in. Panic immediately swept over me because my husband wasn't home and wouldn't be home for at least 3 more hours. I couldn't open my eyes at that moment due to all the soap in my face, so I began frantically rinsing and called out to my husband because who else could it be? "Babe, is that you?" No response. I panicked and frantically opened my eyes searching for who was in the bathroom with me. No one was there, but the bathroom door was wide open, and I know I didn't leave it like that. I stepped out of the shower, wrapping a towel around myself, and went to my bedroom to grab my phone. As I rushed towards my bed, I saw something unusual from the corner of my eye, something hanging from that opening in the closet. I looked to my right and saw a person's head hanging from the ceiling of my closet. It was Herman. He was smirking at me with a sinister grin. I froze, terror seizing every fiber of my being. Herman's eyes bore into mine, and I could feel his evil energy in the air. The towel clutched around me suddenly felt inadequate, and I struggled to maintain composure. "This can't be real," I muttered to myself. I slowly backed out of the room, but when I saw him jump down from the attic, I booked it towards the front door. Of course, it was locked. My hands fumbled to undo the 2 latches. I almost had the last lock undone when I felt Herman snatch me backwards. He tackled me down and started beating my head into the hardwood floor. I screamed, I kicked, and I scratched him as hard as I could. But I was no match. He overpowered me easily, and just when I thought it was over for me, my front door flung open. It was the maintenance guys coming to finally fix that opening in the ceiling. They grabbed him off of me, and I have no memory of what happened after that. Everything went black. I woke up in the hospital, surrounded by the sterile smell of antiseptic and the soft hum of medical equipment. I tried to piece together the events that led me here. My husband sat by my bedside, concern etched on his face as he filled in the gaps of my memory. The maintenance crew responded to my previous complaints about the uncovered opening in the ceiling, arriving just in time. Their timely interventions saved me from the clutches of Herman, who had been terrorizing us in ways we couldn't have imagined. At that moment, it all came together. Things going missing in our apartment, the smell of cigarette smoke in the air, that feeling I always had of being watched. Herman had been using that crawl space above our closet to watch our every move, violating our privacy and waiting for the opportune moment to strike. The police discovered evidence of his disturbing activities, including photos and recordings he had taken without our knowledge. The legal process unfolded, and Herman faced charges of breaking and entering, assault, and various other offenses. The community rallied around us, offering support and condemning Herman's actions. It turned out we weren't his only victims, and his arrest brought relief to many others who had suffered in silence. Our luxury apartment, once marred by fear and discomfort, began to feel like a safe haven again. The management took swift action, implementing stricter security measures, and conducting a thorough inspection of every unit to ensure such incidences wouldn't happen again. The healing process was slow, both physically and emotionally, but with the support of friends, family, and counseling, we gradually regained a sense of normalcy. The scars on my body would fade, but the trauma lingered, a constant reminder of the nightmare we endured. In the aftermath, we moved forward, cherishing the newfound appreciation for our safety and the strength of our bond. The experience taught us resilience and the importance of vigilance and the significance of a caring community. As we finally settled into our new life without the shadow of Herman looming over us, we embraced each day with gratitude, recognizing the fragility of peace and the resilience of the human spirit. Our long-awaited move-in day might have been marred by darkness, but in overcoming the horrors that followed, we discovered a newfound strength and a deeper connection that will guide us into a brighter future. It was a quiet night at the bar as I wiped down the counter. The only sound was the faint hum of the neon signs outside. The clock ticked closer to midnight, and my only company was the occasional flickering light above the entrance. The door creaked open, and a tall figure stepped in. His face was shrouded in darkness, and an uneasy feeling settled in the pit of my stomach. I greeted him with a forced smile, my eyes carefully scanning his demeanor. He ordered a drink in a low, gruff voice, and I couldn't help but notice the intensity in his gaze. As the minutes passed, his presence became increasingly unsettling. I continued my routine, avoiding prolonged eye contact, hoping he'd finish his drink and leave. He leaned in, his eyes piercing through the dim light, and a shiver ran down my spine. "You shouldn't be working alone so late, sweetheart," he said with a sinister grin. My heart raced as I attempted to maintain composure. "I'm fine. You get used to it after a while," I replied, my voice quivering. "I think you and I could have some real fun tonight." Fear gripped me, and I glanced around, contemplating my options. The bar was empty, and the streets outside seemed desolate. Panic set in as he moved closer, his intentions crystal clear. Summoning all the courage I could muster, I firmly told him to leave. "I'm not interested. Please go." He laughed, dismissing my plea. "Feisty. I like that." My hand trembled as I reached for the phone behind the bar, contemplating calling for help. But before I could dial, he lunged toward me, a menacing glint in his eyes. Suddenly, the door swung open, and a group of friends burst in, their laughter breaking the tension. The intruder retreated into the shadows, leaving me shaken but safe. One of the customers noticed my distress and asked if everything was okay. I nodded, grateful for the unexpected rescue. As they settled at a nearby table, the mysterious man still lingered in the corner, observing from the darkness. His departure was a warning, a chilling reminder that danger could lurk in the quietest corners of the night. I finished my shift with heightening awareness, realizing that sometimes the true horror lies in the shadows we least expect.